Hey everybody, this is Double Dog underscore 88. Double Dog underscore 88. You got the glasses up there, by any chance? Let's have that conversation. Let's finish off what we started earlier today. Hello, everybody. Let's have that conversation. Waiting for a few more people to come on in. So, what do we know about someone by the name of Aaron? Yes, I said Aaron. Any takers? Anybody who knows this individual? Who is the drummer? The drummer for Tommaso's band. I had someone text me about this individual, and I thought, you know what? What the hell? Let's just have that conversation. Yes, absolutely. Who was that? Who was that name of Aaron, Tommaso's drummer? Anybody got any idea who's Tommaso's drummer? As we really didn't touch anything on the band members. Let's see. Dominic Aaron. Dominic Aaron Evans. That sound familiar? DE. We'll just go with Dominic Evans. So I had somebody come up with this person's information, and I just wanted to go ahead and maybe just talk a little bit about him, see what he's all about, look some stuff up on him, and did watch a video that I was suggested to watch, and makes a compelling case. Made some very compelling cases as a person who looked like could have had that same eyes, the same, eyebrows, the mustache, the beard. He did have a lot of similarities. Now, I'm not saying it's him. Don't misunderstand me. I'm just saying, what do we really know about him? Because when I watched the video on him and I looked up some pictures of him, the more I thought about it, he could be that individual at that front porch. Now, here's the thing. The only thing that I felt like really like he had a something that was just bothering me was his height. He was only 5'5", okay? And they said 5'8" to 5'10" was that suspect or the person of interest in Nancy's front door, okay? So, but we also know that the video cams sometimes are very suspect where they don't go ahead and, they kind of throw that look off, they throw the size off. There's a lot of things, anomalies there that could be happening that would make that a variation from anywhere from 3 to 5 inches. It really just depends. Page says DE works with TC for the last 19 years, so he's the 92%. That's very possible. That's very possible. What's going on, Gronsky? Good to have you. So the reason I'm going to talk a little bit about him because I really haven't said a whole lot about him. Um, I just figured that they already had talked to him, and being that he was so short, I didn't think he'd fit that. He didn't fit that profile because of his height. However, in everything else, he sure as hell does fit the profile, without a doubt. So I'm going to just pull this up real quick. Give me a second. And it's going to be this individual in the middle. This individual right here. Now look at his eyes. Look at his face structure. Now, here's what got me confused a lot. Because when they showed originally, when they showed the front porch individual, right? They showed him kind of a little husky. So in my mind, when they were saying that he was literally a husky person at that front porch, when they talked about that, I was under the impression, oh, wait, this guy's probably looks like he's about 190, 200 pounds, somewhere in there, because they said average build, okay? An average build is what this individual looked like. But in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm looking at the picture and I'm going, well, that looks about 190 pound, 200 pound individual. But the average build is not 190, 200 pound individual. And I think that's what really got me to literally have to really look back and go, why was I so off? Well, because subconsciously, I'm thinking the average build is what? 165, 170 pounds? Maybe 155, 170? And yet, the individual, the picture that they showed on this individual was more like, to me, just looking at it, about 190, 200 pounds. That's not an average build. You understand how the confusion, how the mind works? One thing is said, the person on the porch has an average build. He's about 5'8" to 5'10". This guy's 5'5", but that is about an average build. 100 maybe 60, maybe 165, somewhere in there. So I had to really look at it. Once it was brought up to my attention, I thought, I got to look at this guy again. Once again, this would be an average build. And this is the guy that I'm talking about right here. Mr. Evans himself. DE. That is the drummer. Together with Tommaso, as Paige said earlier, for 19 years. He works at an elementary, he's a teacher in elementary school. So the idea, I was kind of like, maybe I was confusing average build with what I was seeing. And then with them saying an average build, I'm reading 190, but that's not your average build. 190 is not an average build. No way, it's not even close. So is it possible that he could be a person of interest? Well, I don't know a whole lot about him, to be honest, other than he knew T for a long time, a very long time. They have been playing together for a long time, 19 years. Yeah, I'm not a whole lot up to it either, Gronsky, no doubt. I just thought, at the last minute, I thought, what, I'm just going to do a live and see if I can get some input, because I'm definitely going to look into this more. But I wanted to get your all's thought on that. Is he somebody that could be a person of interest? Well, it was ironic because you remember they showed the guy back in, what was it, in January, a few houses down, that they caught him on a video cam. Remember? And, now that I think about it, that guy wasn't that big of a build back then. Remember when the person that they were talking about could have been casing out the area? That they took literally, one of the door cams got a picture of him, and he didn't have a mask on. He was just there. And, the more I thought about it, I thought, that'd be a good picture to go ahead and find and look at, because that would really makes sense that maybe, just maybe, this guy is slipping through the cracks. Who better than to know T for 19 years? I mean, I don't think they had him over for dinner. I don't think they were, they were. I don't think any of the band members really, they knew who they were, obviously, especially Annie. But I don't think that he was like somebody within that frame, but he would have definitely knew the ins and outs. Here's your recap, G. Immortal says, "Are you a Marine? Once a Marine, always a Marine." Absolutely. Semper Fi, Devil Dog. Immortal Beloved, I can do 100 sit ups. Well, good. That's good for you. You should be able to if you're a young pup. No doubt about it. Discussing on Dominic, TC bandmate. Average bill. Marianne, no more names. Yeah, but this was brought to my attention, and I definitely want to give it a little bit of thought here. Melissa, hey, what's going on, Melissa? Marianne said, I give up on names. Hi, Melissa. Capture Dandy. Who? 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 Capture Dandy says, who are you talking about? Who am I talking about? Dominic. Dominic Evans, Capture Dandy. Nice, refreshing topic pertaining to Nancy. Well, it's just like I said. The more I thought about it, the more I was like, this guy. How did he get past? I mean, like I said, when I heard and when we watched the Porch Guy, and we heard Nano say 5'8" to 5'10", or whoever in the hell said that. When we heard them say that description of the size, average build, I was looking at the 5'10" huskier guy, about 190 pounds, 95 pounds, somewhere in there. I wasn't looking at an average build of about 160, 100, maybe 165 at most. That's your average build. Mark the back. JLR on his way, Ted back, and DGL too. Yeah, I know they're back. I just had to get this off my chest. To me, this is about trying to narrow who could be that person of interest. It's nice that they're all getting back, and having, a powwow, for Nancy and the whatnot. But my thing is, I'm trying to see if anybody knows anything about this individual. Dominic Evans. And it's a little change of pace here. Definitely keeping an open mind. Like I said, the only thing that bothered me was that he was literally, they say he's at 5'5". Is that far off from 5'8", 3 inches? Is that far off from 5'10", 5 inches? Then again, are they off a few inches because of the camera and the distortion and everything? But he definitely has an average build. That's not denying that. We need to know if he has a criminal record. That's the big thing. I searched for stuff on that, and they did talk about some stuff that basically, that when they changed the laws in Arizona, when they finally made it how they were going to enter all this information, that prior to changing the law, that they wouldn't, people that were caught in trouble before that, that would be in CODIS. So that's why he probably never came up, if in fact, he left any DNA back. But it's very true. We got to know if he has a criminal record. I have no clue, I couldn't find anything because of that. When Arizona went to that, went into the CODIS where they were putting everything in CODIS, that wasn't something that they did back in the day. That was fairly, that was probably in the what, late 70s, early 80s, not even 70s, probably even late 80s, maybe early 90s. I know for us it wasn't called CODIS. For us, um, it was NCIS, or NCIC. I'm sorry, NCIC. That's what it was for us when we worked. That went to all the national computers all around the United States. So if he had a record, it would have popped up somewhere. But saying that, I couldn't really find a whole lot on that, to be honest. Okay, Paige says she's going to try to Google him real quick. So what do you think, Gronsky? What do you think, Melissa? What's your take? Could that guy be? Look at the mustache. Look at that front lip, upper lip, that little cut in there. Okay. Now he might be clean shaven there. I don't know, but look at that. Look at the eyebrows. Look at the eyes. I mean, it's very possible that he could very well have that. Blue says, hello, DD. What's going on, Blue? Good to have you. So I'm trying to figure out if this guy has any similarities to the person at the porch. That's what I'm trying to see. Does he have any similarities to the person at the porch? I don't know. I'm trying to find another picture of the guy at the porch. I know I have them. I just don't know exactly where they're at. But what do you guys think, Gronsky? What do you think, Blue? Does he look like he could have those features? Marianne says he does not have a criminal record. Oh, okay. Did you run him through something, or did you just not find anything on him? DE is an elementary. Yeah, I know he's an elementary school teacher. I said that in the beginning. But what do you mean? I mean, you say that kind of like does not with the big NOT in capital. I get what not means. I'm just trying to understand. Did you run him through something? Do you got a friend that ran him through something? How do you? I mean, you're making it emphasis that he definitely is not the guy. So explain what you mean by does not with the capital NOT. That's what I'm thinking, Growski, is he just looks too small as far as the height goes. All I could find was just that, a bandsman. He was a bandsmate. He was the drummer. Hands, that double dog I just got here. Good to have you, Hands. Just trying to see if it makes any sense. That's all. Yeah, just let us know what is the source you use to verify that that's a fact, that that's not him. Because honestly, I don't think none of us know who in the hell it is. In all honesty, in my opinion. If you're asking, if you wonder what I'm doing, I'm trying to find a picture of the door guy. I know I have so many pictures here, and I'm trying to find the door guy. Let's see, maybe this guy. This guy. Could he be that guy? He just looks stocky built to me, but then again, I don't know. Earlier, I said in a previous video, Nancy did not get home. That's a very good possibility, Hans. I was wrong. Those blood are blood with oxygen, produce bubbles of oxygen, so she got home. And what's the okay? Is that like, okay, just What? Okay. So she got home. Okay. I didn't know you were such a investigator there, my friend. Google says DE was contacted by LE in the beginning. He cooperated and has not been questioned again. Hey guys, if I took you away from your other live streams, by all means, please go back. Go back if you don't want to be here. Go back. I just asking the question. That's it. My imagination sees LD. He's still my number one person, Blue. No doubt about it. LD is still my number one person until all of these anomalies are sorted out. He is by far my number one person. I understand that, Hands. We've covered this before with the bubbles in the blood and all that. We cover that. I get it. You're not telling me something that I don't know. I understand that. Thank you. Yes, yes. So she was home. Yes, yes, yes. All that and above. Yeah, I lean more with LD as well. I just didn't know about this individual. That's all. Appreciate that explanation, Han. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, so if she was home, could that still be the individual? Look, LD is still my number one guy. That's no doubt. Okay, DC is still my number two, and A and T are my number three. I just think there's too much information there. I just wanted to know a little bit about this guy. Because all the information, everything that we have gone over, from the blood, from the blood splatter to the droplets of the oxidation in the blood, all that we've covered all that. But somehow that person of interest is still out in limbo, and I'm just trying to figure out, could it be this guy? I mean, he does have also a tattoo on his right wrist. Yeah, I'm not sure. I do think D is a possible suspect or a person of interest. I agree. CP. I'm not sure who CP is, Blue. Tell me who CP is, because I don't know those initials. Oh, I think I do know those initials. Never mind. Han said the guy on the video killed Nancy. I'm sorry, unalived Nancy inside and then came out to remove camera so as transporting in the vehicle would not be captured on video. Okay, that makes sense. So who is this guy? I mean, if we got how everything happened, why don't we have who he is? I mean, we know that he went in there, he unalived her, he went to the front, took the cameras off, came back in, grabbed her, took her, put her in the car, and off he went. So who is the guy? I mean, because that's pretty That's pretty damn specific, no doubt, Hands. Marianne says, Lisa, no adding more people to your list. Blue says the delivery driver. Technically, the delivery driver is technically the last person to see her. Technically. Because, yes, even though you have so many people talking about, yes, T took her back home, I get all the blood and all that. And they were talking about the blood splatter, and a lot of people have been talking, people, even my brothers and sisters in law enforcement, have been talking about possibly this could be a stage event. I'm sure you all heard of that already. So the idea goes, is it possible that she never made it home? I don't know. I don't buy it was staged by no way means. I really don't. But it is a theory that a lot of people in all aspects, from law enforcement, retirees, to a lot of other people, investigators, have said it is very possible. I just don't think they were smart enough to pull that off, to be honest. That's the whole point, Hans. That's the whole point. We don't know what happened in there. We don't know how it happened. We don't know how it happened. We don't know if this was something went wrong. We don't know if there was one guy, one person, two people, three-person. We have no clue. These are all just opinions. We have no tape on, short of knowing that that was her blood that they tested, that came back to Nancy. Yes, we do know that. That is factual. And common sense will tell you, yeah, she made it back. Or did she not make it back? I don't know. I don't have those answers. That's why we're trying to brainstorm here and try to come up with some answers. Han said, Lisa, the guy on the video. We refer to the guy in the video as Porch Guy, if that helps. Has if she did not make it home, how these blood and bubbles that are fresh, I don't know. But I know that there's a lot of people out there in law enforcement that know a hell of a lot more about that than I do. And some of them are saying it's very well could have been staged. It would have been hard to stage it, but they said it could have been staged. And these people are forensic people. These are blood splatter professionals who does this for a living. So the idea that some of them are saying this, and I know they know more about that because that's a specific entity, a specific thing that you study for. I mean, that's the whole point. Got you. Thank you, Marianne. Not that it means anything, but Nano said DE is not a suspect. DE did speak with some about people pointing to him. Yes. Yes, I was at the very beginning. And at the very beginning, I didn't even think TC could do something like this, or TC and A. But now I'm looking at it going, is this a possibility? Because we didn't have the information, and they didn't give us that information that there was a 9-second phone call to somebody, TC or A, and that they received these messages. We never had that information when he made that comment. You know what I mean? So that's what put me, because he also said that the family was all cleared, and we know that's impossible. There's no way T and A can be cleared. That's a fact. That's a fact. They can't be cleared because you can't show anything of them taking mom or mother-in-law home. There's no video. There's nothing. Yes, there's a garage door, but anybody could download that on an app. Open that door from anywhere. Anywhere. Yes, and Google says the same, but that means zero, in my opinion. Hands uses, in my opinion, to be less offensive in chats, please. In my opinion, all along, let's see where we're at here. Marianne, I knew someone would say that. Are there some videos of all these people hanging out together with the bands? I don't know, Gronsky. I mean, I know there was a lot of questions about that because there is to be some type of affiliation with a lot of people in different pictures and different connections with known people. Okay, I do know that there is a lot of that out there. However, to like be able to say, well, this person standing with this person and that I cannot say because I haven't seen that, to be honest. In my opinion, all along, people, says Hands. Everything in this chat is opinions. Absolutely. Marianne. Mary, didn't Nanos just say recently that if nothing comes back from the DNA, it would be a cold case at that point? The only problem with the cold case, it usually takes about 3 years for it to be a cold case. So I don't even know if Nanos know what the hell he was saying. I mean, it's to the point that you have to literally understand the dynamics that they're not. It's not going to be a cold case just because someone says it's a cold case. You know what I mean? Nano saying it's a cold case means nothing. That's a long process. I mean, my gosh, I get it. We want all answers. I want answers. But the idea that he's going to say that after 105 days, 104 days, whatever it is now, is ludicrous. It's ludicrous. It may not be ludicrous in the big grand scheme of things that she may be unalive because how long this has gone for this type of scenario for someone in her condition at 84 years old. That may be so. That may be so. But not the fact that this is a cold case. If Nano wants to be specific, just say he doesn't want his people to spend any more hours on this case because it's costing money that he doesn't see any light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. Just my opinion. Nanos want it cold case. Why? Well, that's the $1,000,000 question. Why would he want it a cold case? Why did he cancel the search after 2 days, after less than 48 hours, actually? Why did he cancel the search at the very beginning? That's the real question. Why is it stated by certain officers who work in that department that every time they wanted to do something, this investigating team, Nanos would direct it to a different course? That's the real question. So Nano has brought this doubt upon himself by his actions and by what he is allowed and not allowed to be conducted in this investigation. That's what's happened. And we're not even to the point of all the missed possibilities that they did not gather the information and letting the house back 2 days after this incident happened. 2 days, you're going to release the house back to the family only to take it back and then put crime scene tape over it and say, no, you can't have it back. I mean, how does that work? Why? I think because they knew. Well, if they knew that she had been unalive, Mary, I mean, that's not just something you do. You still have to investigate that. You still have to go out there and continue that search. You had literally independent search organizations that wanted to come out here and do it at no cost, and he rejected them. Why would you do that? Even if they thought that she was unalive, even more so, maybe they buried her somewhere close by their house. I highly doubt they were going to take her all over the place, right? So the idea becomes, why would he create all these weird and unnormal anomalies that only makes him look very fishy, in my opinion? No doubt, no doubt. I agree with that, Paige. Well, why does this cost money when these investigators have a salary paid monthly for their job? Well, I mean, I understand what you're saying, Hans. I get it. I do. I totally understand, and you got a good point. The idea is that they still have to cover their ground, their territory of their county, right? So if you pull out X amount of manpower to go ahead and do these searches, that leaves everything else vulnerable. So, in essence, that's the whole question. Why would you turn down, you being nanos, turn down help from like the Cajun Navy or other, nonprofit organizations that were willing to come out here? That makes no sense. You know what I mean? Because you still got to cover your county, and that's a big county. And if you just start taking people off, now you're talking about. Let's say he took other people off from the jail or whatnot to go out there and search. You're gonna have to pay them overtime. Maybe their budget was already skyrocketing. I don't know. But that's usually what happens is they can't just afford to take people off their beats because they know that they got to have and fulfill other obligations in the community along with trying to solve this case. I've added DE to my list of people interest. I mean, you can't leave anything off the table, no doubt. That's a fact. Definitely got to gather your own information and not rely on nanos because, hey, look, it's not that I have anything against nanos. I supported nanos at the beginning. But the more these things were coming out, the more it started to look like, what the hell are you doing? And it just didn't make any sense. And every law enforcement, from everybody I've ever known in law enforcement, from everybody I've ever worked in with law enforcement, I just never seen that type of behavior to make those type of decisions. I just hadn't. Mary says, right, but the second ransom letter basically said it. I hear what you're saying, Didi. No, you're right. Are you talking about the one that said it's not what is it? What was it when the writer of the letter says something to the fact of it is no longer something. I'm going to just rephrase it because I can't think of the exact word, but basically she's there's no hurry, there's no hurry. That's my words. They didn't say that, but that's basically what they were saying. Like, she's unalive, so there's no hurry. But we like to go ahead and I can tell you where she's at and who did this, so that you can give me that half a Bitcoin. They said I can't rule out DE just because Nanos did. That's no doubt. He fits the description. He has spent 19 years very close to Nancy and AG and TC. Honestly, Hans, I want to say, and I believe I want to say no. I want to say no. I don't think he's hiding anything. I would say it's more like incompetence if you want to know the truth. I do believe that. It's definitely incompetence, in my opinion. So I don't believe that he's hiding anything, but I do believe that he's sending a lot of missed messages that is confusing a lot of people, and that's why people are coming out. That's why his job is on the line. It wasn't because he didn't say all the truthful things on his application as they were saying. It was because they were looking at a reason because the people had lost faith in him. They lost faith. They lost confidence in him. He lost the trust of the people in that county, or some of them, to the point that they wanted to remove him. That was the whole purpose. It had nothing to do with the lies and about what he did. Was he ever disciplined for different actions? It was nothing about that. That was just a loophole to find a reason. The reality is because he lost the faith of the people in his county, and they just were not. And once you lose that faith of the people, it's hard to get that back. It's very hard to get that back. It's not easy. But no, in my opinion, I don't think he's hiding anything. I just think it's a lack of confidence. I think it's a lack of trying to be a micromanager. I think it's another part of it could be just the inexperience of the officers. Nothing to their fault. I mean, he's the one that got rid of a lot of the people, if you remember, or if you guys remember, he got rid of a lot of people. He's practically in the 92%, says Paige. Falls is in the house. Good to have you, Falls. Of course, we don't trust nanos. Yes, says Mary Mary. We're discussing Dominic Evans, Falls. How was the Zeppelin concert? Dee Dee scratched everything I sent you for now. I started looking for pictures, and the guy I found and the guy in the video look alike. Two different guys. Sounds good, Falls. Thank you for letting me know. Appreciate that. Mary, Mary, that must suck for him. Shaking my head. Awesome. Of course. I haven't really looked him up, but I will. I mean, it's just something that, once again, somebody brought it to my attention, and I just kind of took a quick look and watched some videos and started looking him up. And I mean, some things really do fit, and there's a couple things that really bother me. One being his height. He's 5'5", and I just don't know if that's a deception from the camera, that Nest camera at the front door. Could that be a fluctuation on the height, or you know, or not? See, the idea is just these are all just opinions, guys. Like I said, I came on here late just because I wanted to ask that question. I wanted to see what you all thought, and I don't know. Paige says, I appreciate you, dog and pups. 5 inches, it is a big difference. It is. That's the only thing that troubles me. That's the only thing that would pull me away from that. But the tattoo on the right wrist, he has a tattoo on the right wrist. The eyes, those eyes fit that. The mustache, the goatee, the little slit up in the lip, that seems to look pretty plausible. That height, I just can't get over that part. You know what I mean? And that's why I was saying maybe, I don't know. I know Monk has talked about how, Monk Intrigue has talked about things of how that camera, there's a lot of distortion in different ways and whatnot. So I don't know if the height is something that could be also not, you know, getting that full pic. But then when I went back and I remember that they had that guy that the house camera back in January, that there was a house camera that took a photo of this individual who was basically, for bad lack of words, just scouting the area. He didn't have a mask on. And if I recall right, his face was pretty thin. And he didn't look like a big body person. So that's what made me think, oh, can't be that guy because the Porsche guy's a lot bigger. But then again, when law enforcement said, or when we were told that this guy was, average built, okay, average built at 5'8", 5'10", then I started thinking, why did I get confused? And I'm thinking, well, probably because average build is only about 160, 165 pounds. That's the average build, not 190 to 200 pounds. As the guy looked kind of bulky, or maybe even a girl looked kind of bulky. But you're right, the 5 inches is a lot. Could be only three, right? Could be only three from 5'8". But if you go to the extreme of 5'10", yes, then it would definitely be 5 inches, no doubt. He says average build and LE might be mistaken in their height description. In my opinion, it's very possible. Like I said, Sleuth had talked about how there's a lot of distortions in cameras, especially like in those Nest cameras, and sometimes, I was just wondering if maybe that could be something that was off as well. Paul says, because I thought Kayla, but then I saw she's only 5'4", so I ruled her out. Yeah, that would definitely rule her out at 5'4", no doubt, unless, once again, there's a major distortion. I don't know. But what was interesting that hearing some of this information was, so apparently these cameras, when you walk backwards, the camera, when it first focuses on you, right? When it first gets that red, when that sensor kicks on, if you're walking backwards, it's trying to like update the distance of getting that clear picture, right? So if it turns on and a person's walking backwards, it's still trying to capsulate that individual. Follow what I'm saying? And that was kind of interesting because, the movements of some of these people, it seemed like they stayed with their head down or stayed facing a certain way and just walking backwards because they didn't give it time to basically get that full caption, if that makes any sense. But I thought that was quite interesting. Never thought about that possibility. Who do we have on our perp list that's actually 5'10"? Maybe we should start there. No, that's true. I mean, look, I think maybe the three people we talked about, the people that we've all kind of pretty much come to the conclusion for the most part. You're looking at probably LD. You're looking at probably DC from California. You're probably looking at T. A could have known about it. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, TLD, no doubt. And and that hasn't changed my mind. No, make no mistakes. I have not changed my mind in the people that I believe are my top three people of interest that I would definitely, if I was the FBI, I'd be talking to. Those top three I'd be talking to in a heartbeat, along with many others. But once again, I just thought I'd look into this because this kind of, there was a lot of similarities, and the only thing that really bothered me the most was the height. That was the only thing. But I wasn't sure if there was like a discrepancy in the Nest camera. Guess I should have done my homework there too. But anytime we hear that Nanos has, literally done the things that he has done, and anytime we hear the fact that he has, basically cleared people in a matter of a few weeks. It's crazy. Okay. I don't buy that one bit. Now, do I think that he's got something on? I don't know. I want to say no, but in the same token, I think he's just, maybe it's a part of incompetency. I don't know, because it didn't make any sense. Well said. Well said. Okay. No, I mean, it's just really trying to put all this information, trying to figure out, and I'm using my law enforcement skills and everything, and I think we're on the right. I know we're on the right track. I feel strongly we're on the right track. There's no doubt in my mind on that. But once again, it's like I said before, you can't leave anything off the table. You know, Probably know this person had these boots that have some big ass high heels that took away. We don't know. I mean, we just don't know. And maybe we would know that. Maybe they were tennis shoes. I'm sure we could come to that conclusion because they had videos of it. But I'm just being sarcastic there. But it's a lot, and I don't have a problem with anybody having different views. No problem at all. Just know how to convey that respectfully. Convey your views respectfully. Okay, because that's all I ever ask on this channel, and that seems to be a little bit outside the box here lately. Today, Paul says you all probably have already talked about, but Nano saying he is no longer take talking to the Guthries was interesting. Yeah, right. You know, I look at that in many ways. Almost like on one hand, I look at it like he wants no part of this, right? He's trying to distance himself from maybe everything that he knows he has maybe gave the wrong impression or said the wrong thing or whatnot. And then on the other hand, I look at it and go, or maybe they found some conclusive evidence, or they're not saying just yet, but they have a pretty good idea who was involved, and it may be somebody in the family. And he definitely, like, saying, I'm not going to get involved in this now because now I'd have to do the things that I don't want to have to do, like have to take somebody in that I know. So therefore, yeah, I'm distancing myself from this because this is getting heated. You know what I mean? I could see that. So it's just really how you take it, and maybe I'm giving him more credit than he deserves. I don't know. You know what I mean? Do you follow me what I'm saying, Falls? Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Is it possible that he's looking at it on one perspective on one way, and then on the other side you could look at it like maybe he doesn't want to have to be the bad guy, to have his people handcuff somebody that he knows. So he's like, hey, I don't want no part of this. I'm done. I'm out. You're gonna drag me down with you, for a better lack of words. Paul says, I do. I mean, just my opinion. All of our opinions, no doubt. I agree. So that's really what I wanted just to bring out, because it was bothering me, and I just didn't know, like, and I know everybody's watching the fearsome Fisem or the fearsome Sixum or the Sixum fearsome out there in the Catalina foothills. I get it, and I don't want to take anybody away from that. I just wanted to go ahead and kind of see if pick anybody's brain and see what they thought, but it makes sense. It really does. I look like maybe the Fed said, but are not, or but said, but out, or SG said we aren't working with you, dumb ass. That's very possible. That is another one. Maybe they just said, I'm done with you. Move on. I don't want you to do anything with this. And if that's something that could have been happening for sure, and I could see that. I could see SG saying, We don't want to work with you no more. We're done. This has been nothing but a disaster. I could see her saying that when it comes to her mom being missing. But in the same token, I wonder if her saying that would also be smart for her to call Cajun Navy herself and say, "Hey, we really need your help. Would you be willing to go ahead? What would it take for you guys to go out there, or get a hold of these other nonprofit organizations?" KB says, "Thanks, dog. I think you're right. For the family to be involved, more scandal on Nano's way out. It really is. It really is, KB. Thank you. Appreciate that. Absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, this may be the time when we may hear something from SG saying, "Hey, we want." I contacted the Cajun Navy and see what it'll take to get them out here. KB said, Agatha Christie style, they're all guilty, in my opinion, no doubt. Mary says exactly, DD, on Savannah taking it upon herself for help. I mean, that would make sense to me. Give them a call. I guarantee you they'll come out. And Nanos won't be able to stop that from them coming out. That will have nothing to do with him. It may be his county, but he can't tell these people they can't go and search. Do you know what the political cost would be to him? I mean, I think they'd all go back and have another meeting and say, "Yeah, out of here, adios." You know, they didn't do it the first time, but I could see them doing it the second time if he pulls something like that. Hell yeah! If you had the millions, if I had the millions to spend money up to find my mother, you damn right. I spent every dime and nickel and penny that I had to find my mother or my in-laws or anybody important to me. You darn right I would. So I don't even think it's really now about the money, because I think if this was Savannah saying, "Hey, we don't want to work with you no more," you know, sheriff, then I think that's what severed it. That could very well be. I mean, that's a really good point that you made, no doubt. It'd be nice if she just followed up with that to say, "Oh, by the way, I'm getting a hold of Cajun Navy and see what they can do for us." You know, I mean, that's what I would do. I know that's what a lot of people would do. I know that's what a lot of people would have done a long time ago. Mary says it does. I mean, I don't know. It's just this is taking so many twists and turns, and when you hear people like Sergeant Cross and others, when you hear behind the scenes of you hear that scuttlebutt behind the scenes of how discontent a lot of these people are, these officers or these deputies, should I say, in working for Nanos, that they're really not happy with his performance. When you hear all that, I mean, there's a reason why you hear that. You know, you're not getting 241 non-confident votes from the people that work with you because they think that you're doing a hell of a job. That's exactly what happened. So I would think that for sure it would make sense. For sure it would make sense. But yeah, it's there's a lot to look at here. I think literally, honestly, I think also that Nanos knows that he's probably not gonna run again, and if he runs again after this, if he happens to stay on long enough to run again, let's just put it that way, I think he knows he's not going to win. There's going to be so much baggage that this is his last hurrah. Kind of like ride it out and live, love it, and then ride off in the sunset. Because he knows he's not going to win in the next election more than not, because people are not going to forget this. This is a very sore black eye. So he's just he can say whatever he wants at this point, and what are people going to do? What they're going to challenge him? They'll just wait to the ballot box in 2 more years or whatever it is, and go from there. I know she has to go with life, but I don't think I would have taken a second job on with my mom missing. Yeah, yeah, no doubt. I mean, what is it? A game show? She's now going to be hosting a game show, and maybe they're going to slowly try to maybe. I'm just guessing, maybe like drift her away from the news to get her out of that aura that goes around with the news, right? And get her more kind of like, you know what I mean? I still don't know how you do that, but I mean, it's possible. Aid says, hi, it's there a possibility that Savannah contracted or will contract a private investigator and don't need nanos because he's in I mean, they can always do that. Aid, they can always do that. They can always hire their own private investigators. People do that a lot. People with money do that a lot because it costs money, but they have the money. To you and I, we'd have to like get all our pennies and dimes and nickels to put it all together to make it work. But for her, they have the money, so they could do that. And not just that, but like I said, getting a whole occasion Navy and finding out what exactly they could do for her, or other I don't know many other ones out there, but there is some. I've heard their names, I just haven't heard them very frequently, so I can't remember. But there is other ones out there that will come in and also do, their nonprofit, and they do this kind of stuff, and see if they would come out and what it would cost them to come out. They probably would say zero it would cost them, you know. But then again, you just never know. But it is very possible, Aid, that yes, that's probably will be done. If nothing comes out of this, that very well could be done. And if I'm Savannah and I want to do this, I don't tell anybody. You know, I keep that maybe between herself, and that's it. And I hire these people myself, and I let them do their thing, and I don't tell any of my siblings. I don't tell nobody what these people are doing. And yes, private investigators, they do have a little bit of leeway, believe it or not. They're not bound to the same criteria as law enforcement to the T. There is some things that they're bound to by as a private investigator, but not completely like a law enforcement officer. Officers have a lot more follow the structure, where private investigators, they got a little bit of leeway. They don't have more power, but they have a little bit more leeway. Because here's the thing: if they do something that's wrong, or break the law, or do something to somebody's rights, they're gonna pay big time in court. Mary says yes, 100%. Fall says a dive team. That would be nice. That would be nice. No doubt about it. No one in the family seems to be doing anything. Why are Marianne says no one in the family seems to be doing anything. Why are PEOS? I'm not sure what PEOS means, Marianne, but I think no one. No, the family's not doing a whole lot. Well, that we see, they're not doing anything. Whether they're being advised by the FBI, whether they're being advised by the investigators, whether they're being advised by somebody not to basically put themselves in the line of fire, that's very possible. I don't know why, but they could be being told that. I think it's ludicrous and crazy for them, anybody to tell them that, but it is possible. No doubt about it. Good point, Marianne. Falls. I would talk to Nick, Ren, Doug, Bishop, and Josh Cantu as divers for Rose Canyon Lake. They are out of Oregon. Look, if you don't have one in your department, if you don't have one in your department like a dive team, there's always someone willing to do it to help another agency out for free. So it doesn't cost you anything. So you have to pay for the oxygen tanks to get them filled. Really? I mean, yeah, I get it. No doubt. Mary says, hey, Falls. Oops, why is everyone bashing Savannah? No, I don't think anybody's bashing Savannah. I actually, Marianne, I think everybody's like giving her kudos if she went ahead and told Nanos that she's not working with him no more, doesn't want his help anymore, doesn't want nothing to do with his help. If that's the case, I hey, kudos to her. I would definitely go ahead and definitely go ahead and find out what Cajun Navy could do for them as a family and what it would cost them. No, there's no one bashing Savannah. They're just trying to say, hey, the only thing is, yeah, you got to admit there's nothing being done, or we're not seeing anything being done on the surface from the family. But like I said a minute ago, it could be because they're being advised not to. I think it's crazy, but it's possible. There may be some things that we just don't know behind the scene. Paul says, I'm not bashing SG. These guys have found missing people and cleared so many cars out of the lakes and rivers. I mean, what would it hurt, honestly? Really, what would it hurt for them to go in there and rake that lake? And I mean, literally, them, divers, go down there. What would it hurt? I mean, if anything, you think it would give you a peace of mind that it was done. And that's one thing you can scratch off that list. You know what I mean? So that's very possible. But there has been a lack of urgency, I guess, for a better lack of words, in my opinion. And once again, I go back to you just don't know what they're being told. Because here's the thing, folks. You guys got to remember, they're going to do whatever they're being told by law enforcement because this is not their niche. It's supposed to be law enforcement's niche. This is something law enforcement is supposed to be able to handle. Okay? They're supposed to be able to know what they're doing in this type of situation. So, in reality, they should listen to these people. The problem is, I just don't know what good is coming out of it if they are, in fact, telling them that. And they could be. It very well could be. Brenda's in the house. Good evening, Double Dog and Mods and Pubs. Good to have you, Brenda. But that's what I would think. But check the lake. I mean, even now, even if Savannah still, let's just say she is working still with Nanos, even working with Nanos, asking Nanos, hey, I'm going to get the Cajun Navy out here and I'm going to ask them what it would cost to have them come out here and search the team. And that's what me and my family are going to do. I would just tell Nanos that respectfully, but tell them that. I think we feel more comfortable if we do this because it'll give us peace of mind. I mean, I can't see why he would balk at that. You know what I mean? That would be my take anyway, in all honesty. But the other thing too is the fact that I think we are on the. I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that we're on the right track. We're on the right track. The people that we're looking at, I think, are very people that should and need to be interviewed. I'm not saying they've done anything. I'm just saying they need to be interviewed again. Brenda says, Double Dog, sorry. Tucson, Arizona is very weird and very weird laws to be exact. Oh, I bet. I bet. I mean, the little that I knew of Arizona was, everybody's a cowboy, everybody carries a gun, everybody is it's like you got to walk on eggshells. I mean, I don't know how true it all is, but I'm sure it's the Wild Wild West. That's what they would call it, the Wild Wild West. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure it is crazy. 857 Tucson. Thank you, Devil Dog 88, for your expertise and opinions. Thank you, Tucson. Appreciate you, my brother. Thank you. God bless you. Appreciate the comments, my friend. Brenda, Devil Dog, I totally agree with you. I totally agree. Thank you very much, Brenda. I appreciate that. Mary, agree, Brenda. Falls, Savannah has the funds to get the search and rescue out there, but that's about all she can do. That's true. It's got to be effing torturing her. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. 100%. No doubt, you got that right, says Brenda. Absolutely. No doubt, Falls. That's it's got to be. Because I think deep down in her heart of hearts, she wants to go ahead and have this done. And yet, it's that wanting to listen to law enforcement because they're supposed to know what they're doing. And I'm not saying they don't know. There may be reasons that we just don't understand. But the reality is that it just doesn't make sense to me in law enforcement. It doesn't make sense to me. KB says, not a good steward of the state money, but FBI doesn't charge anything if they turn it over. I mean, yeah, I mean, I know they're working. They're working. They've already has established that they have people that are working on this case from so many from the FBI and so many people allotted from deputies from the sheriff's department, and other agencies that are like they're all in this type of networking where, when something like this happens, you get together and they start working and solving the crime, especially a big crime like this. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. The reality is that money's not the object. That's out there. Money's not the object. The family has enough money to do this without breaking any little piggy bank. Okay, they probably have enough money and stored away cash that they don't have to break any little piggy bank. Okay, so the reality is that yes, they can afford to do this if they want to, but I'm sure some of them are not wanting to burn bridges with people where they used to live. Cameron has a lot of rental properties there. Um, A&T live there. I'm sure they're not wanting to burn any bridges with anybody. I would think, no doubt, that has to be excruciating pain. No doubt about it. KB says, "Great big eagles." Well, that's kind of what it seems like. I mean, but I'll be honest with you, KB. That's not far off from a lot of sheriffs. I'm not saying all sheriffs are like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's a lot of power there being a sheriff in any sheriff department. They have power. I've said that to you all from the very beginning. They have power. Sheriffs has a lot of power. You know, just like with this case here, the FBI can't just come and take this case. This is a state and city issue, and they cannot pull this case from anybody unless they can actually see that there's an interstate type of deal, or that it's something dealing with a federal, maybe a federal agent. Then they could pull this case and say we're taking it federally because it deals federally. But being a case that happened in the state and the city and whatnot, they can't take it. They have power and they know that. They know that. I'm just saying, I've dealt with enough sheriffs to know that they have the power and they know it. Yeah, yeah, I heard that too, Falls, about the military taking this over. Military ain't taking this over. This is not what the military does. You know what I mean? I mean, they could assist in equipment or whatnot if they were requested to. And under this administration, there's not. I'm sure that they would find a way to do it without a doubt. But the idea that this is not their cup of tea. If really the people that need to really should have handled this from the beginning was the FBI. This was too big of a case with the lack of experience and no discredit to the officers or the deputies because they just don't have the experience. Not their fault. Uh, but this should have been handed over to the FBI. That's the difference between Moscow, Idaho, and what you're seeing here. That's the difference between a lot of other places and what you're seeing here. You know, when ego gets in the way, and most of the time it is ego, this is what happens. And when it goes south, believe me, it goes south all the way around. Well, I don't think it was the military taking it over, but I heard that the military was going to help with certain equipment to be able to go ahead and not take it over, but to help with equipment that that for all sake and purposes that Arizona doesn't have. You know, whether it was night infrareds, whether it was having some choppers go over the top, scan, and do all this type of thing. I did hear that. I heard that as well. But taking over, no, they're not going to do that. This is not their niche. I don't remember. I just remember hearing it. Somebody was saying that the military was was going to, or something about they were going to have some night infrareds, choppers, and whatnot, scan the area and do the whole 9 yards. And you know what? It could have been someone maybe just talking out of their ass. I don't know. But the reality is that someone did mention it. So, but they're not gonna. They're not gonna. They probably won't even do that. However, I will tell you that in this administration, hey, there's nothing that's normal anymore in anything. And I'm not saying that bad or good. It's just that if this administration, if the president wants to tell Hexa to tell these military that they're going to do this, believe me, they'll do it because nothing is run like it used to be. So, in other words, they can do whatever in the hell they want to do if they really want to do it. It's just not something that was typically ever done. You know what I mean? It's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just the reality. But I can't remember who exactly said that. Somebody brought, and they may have just brought it up and just like, maybe they should do this or maybe they should do that. I just don't recall. I know for me, when I heard it, it was like, that's not happening. But that doesn't mean that this administration wouldn't go ahead. It would go a long way to maybe boost their polls as well, too, right? I mean, they need some positivity going on right now because there's not a lot going on, really. I mean, to be truthful. KB says, crud, call in the National Guard to search. There you go. That's a very problem. That's simpler to do. All the governor has to do is call them in and say, hey, we need you guys. We'll put you on the pay because they have to put them on the pay. And we're going to call you up and we're going to do elbow to elbow search. If it doesn't grow, you pick it up. Literally. Very well said, KB. No doubt. Our chat's not too bad for people talking out their asses. That's why I'm here. It's always good to be able to have ideas and suggestions. It's always good to think outside the box. But there's certain things that are not normal, and only really the FBI or even just law enforcement in general. But if it goes higher than that, you're probably looking at just the FBI as the highest, for the most part. For the most part, a better lack of words, the highest law enforcement, right? They will come in and they'll help. That's why everybody calls them when there's something happening, when they need their assistance. Yeah, you and everybody else, KB, are tired and frustrated with this case. I know I am. I know I am. But the thing is, I get to go to sleep every night. I get to wake up every morning. I get to count my blessings. This family doesn't get to do that, and that's the tough part. They don't get to do that. Psychic Rider says, "Hey, found your channel. Life Analysis subbed up, bro. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Psychic Rider. Thank you so much. God bless. Appreciate that. Thank you for all the plugs and everything you do. Appreciate you." Love the channel of 857 as well. Thank you. Appreciate you. Love all the channels for that matter. Maybe we need to talk about something different. Okay, so on our next conversation we have, I'm going to start talking about I'm going to bring up the topic of what's going on with these now 16 scientists and or that have been gone missing or unalived or mysteriously unalived. And I'm going to start going one by one from the latest one. We just had another one come out. Uh, and I want to start going into that realm. And because I think it's important. And I think we're still going to cover, obviously, we're still going to cover the Spencer and Monique Tepe from Ohio. We're still going to cover, the Joanna Ruth Shields from Carlsbad. We're still going to cover, obviously, Nancy. We're going to still cover those, but maybe we'll split a little bit of time to start mentioning because these people work for the federal government. Okay, these people work for the federal government. These people were of important positions, scientists, people who were working on things like propulsion, like gravity, how things that we don't even know nothing about, how to make it work in an everyday for the people, right? And but that stuff is very, very not only is it wonky, but it's very nuanced. It is very nuanced in the sense that it is very high tech. And for people to be gone missing or unalive or literally taking their own life, that's just not normal, everybody. That is not normal. And so we're gonna start from the latest one, and I'm gonna work our way, and we'll just work it out, talk about one because they're important people. They're people that have contributed to literally our country, our well-being, and I think they should be covered. And I'm going to cover one by one, until we get all 16, and if more jump on, as far as more there's more cases that come along, so we'll cover them too. We're still going to cover everything else, but I want to be able to change it up a little bit because it's hard to for a better lack of words, it's hard to keep beating an unalive horse. For a better lack of words, you can only beat an unalive horse so much, right? At some point, you're like, geez, as long as we keep it in the frame that we're still going back to see exactly what's happening, then that's okay. As long as we always coming back to the people who deserve this being their voices being heard, like Nancy and like I said, the Tappies and like I said, Shields. That's all that matters. And there's a lot more people that we could cover, but these people are special people as well. At least to our country, they've given a lot, and a lot of them have gone unalive mysteriously, or just gone unalive or missing. And they're young. They're not older people. They're young, which kind of begs the question, how in the hell is this happening? Why is it there more scrutiny or more attention being done by the FBI? It's out there, just no one's grabbing it right now. We're going to grab it. We're going to grab it as best we can, and we're going to run with it, and we're going to see what we can find out. This is dealing with governmental type of people that I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I think this could get very, very serious in a heartbeat, literally, because the government doesn't like people poking in. So there's a lot to be said about that. That's just a fact. How does that work for you all? Yeah, how does that happen? Good idea, psychic writer. I can't get over this 16. How does that happen? It just goes crazy. 857 really has me interested in the Holly Dassel. That too. That's another one. Thank you for bringing that up, Falls. Absolutely. The Holly Dassel case. That as well, we're going to bring that up. We've been talking about that. here lately, it's been probably about a week since we brought her name up. But absolutely, that's another one. Holly Dassel's case. 857 is doing a great job. We've talked about that, and you can't give up on those cases, and especially when it's other streamers that are trying to. Martha Shark just had a very good um, results here lately in the case up in L.A. with the Burke and the um, Celeste Rivas Hernandez. That case, sad as it was, but at least they got some results. And so, yeah, absolutely, the Holly case. We're definitely going to talk about that as well. Thank you for pointing that out because we have talked about it, and a lot of it has been because I'm just going to say for what it is because 857 is covering it, and the more people that cover it, the more hopefully traction it'll get, and hopefully someone will take up that with a little bit or a lot more following. They can take that up to the next level and really get the exposure that it needs to be gotten, to say the least, no doubt. KB, thank you. So many missing. There's so many people that deserve it, no doubt. Psychic writer and Trump said he was going to get the FBI on that. I'm not convinced it's not our own government doing this. I'm not convinced that either, Psychic writer. I totally agree. I think that this very well, look, it's no secret that the current president, our president, has literally said he wants a lot of these files released, right? A lot of these files being the UAPs and the what used to be known as UFOs and all that kind of stuff, right? Area 51 and all this information. And he's come out and said, I want these files released. Who's to say that you have to understand what propulsion is? You have to understand what reverse engineering is. When you're trying to reverse engineer, you're trying to figure out how something works that we have no clue how it works. But yet we suspect that for a better lack of words, others know how to work this. And so when you start talking about reverse engineering and you start talking about propulsion, I mean, you can go all the way back to the 70s with a guy by the name of Bob Lazar that came out with his story about working on Area 51, right? He came out with his whole thing, and everybody thought he was just a Fruit Loop, a kook, until they started finding elements that were added to the table that we never had. And the same elements they added to the table of all the elements that we have to work with, he put that element in there. And everybody said, we don't even have that. All of a sudden, mysteriously, the government said, we now have this as an element. Okay, so there's stuff to be said. Now, I'm not going to go into details. I'm just telling you, yes, government could very well be a part of this. These are people, scientists that are talking about, you're talking about a man, what is it, MacTash, he was a general from Dayton, Ohio, my home state, Dayton, Ohio, literally, at the Wright-Patterson's Air Force Base, who ran all that top secret stuff. You have to know, and that's a lot of getting into the weeds, but he ran all that. He knew about that information. And then he takes a walk one day and just disappears. How does that work? A general with all that knowledge, with all that information. It's not normal, folks. The people that seem to be literally gone missing that has worked it seems like most of them, if not all of them, are in the aerospace, like I said, in the propulsion, in the reverse engineering, in the gravity. I mean, it's stuffed. It's some serious stuff. It's not a mistake that these people are going missing or being unalive or mysteriously finding them unalive after they said they would never do that to themselves because they're being threatened. We're going to cover this, and you guys are going to understand and see what I'm talking about. But this is what I told you from the very beginning. The channel for me was all about the unknown. I love the unknown because I don't know. And I'm going to find out, or I'm going to try to do my best to find out about the unknown. I like that. You know, case with Nancy. I really get into that case because not only does it deal with a grandmother, somebody that we all can relate to, that's not only deals with a mother that we all can relate to, a loved one that we all can relate to, but it's not knowing what happened and trying to use your knowledge to piece it together. That's what I mean when I say unknown. Okay? So we're going to cover this stuff, everybody, and I think it's going to go well. I really do. Whether or not we make a dent or anything, that's a whole different story. The idea is at least we can say we did the best we could and let the chips fall where they may. MS Mandy says, Dee Dee, let's talk about it. We're going to talk about it. We may talk about it as early as tomorrow with our first one. No doubt about it. KB says, 0 Point Energy. There's a lot to lose. Oil companies. Yes. I mean, I just talked to a good friend of mine in the oil fields itself, in the oil company. He just lost his job, you know, making high six figures. I mean, the idea that what's happening is affecting a lot of people. I just talked to him on the phone today. Literally. I would say less than 3 hours ago on the phone. He had to tell me because we had both worked in that line of field in the past, in the engineering work. So I get it, you know. But yeah, we're going to cover this stuff and we're going to see what happens. And we're going to see where it goes, and we'll go wherever the facts takes us. We'll go. But make no mistake, when you're dealing with the government, you are literally putting yourself out there. That is a fact. I don't care who's running the government. I don't care who's in charge of it. I don't care who's the president. When you're dealing with the government and you're poking the bear, you have to be very careful. That is just a fact, everybody. Absolutely. Paul says other governments wanting our scientists. Absolutely. Look, contrary to what a lot of people may think about how great advanced other countries are, like China and so forth, there's no one. I mean, in my opinion, in all honesty, and I don't say this out of like thinking that it's all that, but there's no one right now that has what we have as far as technology. You know, if you want to compare somebody who puts a radio together or somebody that can tell you how to destroy something that's so massive, yeah, that's the difference. Okay, we are so much more advanced than every other country, and that's why everybody wants the United States, wants a piece of it, or wants to be a part of it. You know, for good or bad. So make no mistake, we have things that a lot of countries don't even have, to include China, Russia, to include North Korea, etc. So very well said. It could very be other people that want our knowledge. No doubt about it. I would say that's probably 100% accurate. And yes, maybe you're right, Psychic Rider. Maybe they wanted to silence these people because they knew this information was going to come out. And so, look, I believe there's people at the top, like I believe there's people at the top that's on top of them that they just don't know about. Okay? Let that sit in for a minute. I know there's people at the top of our government structure, and I still know there's people at the top of them that they just don't know about. Yeah, that's pretty scary. I do believe that wholeheartedly. I do believe that. And the reason I say that is because just about every president has wanted to go ahead and get these files released. And no president has ever been able to do it. None. Even our current president. It hasn't happened. He's calling for it, but it hasn't happened. Because I believe that there's our people at the top, and then there's people that they don't know who's really at the top. It's not a conspiracy, it's just reality. So I can see how this is going to be very interesting, everybody. Do your homework. We're going to look at the last case person that went. We'll probably start it tomorrow at 9 o'clock. And we're going to go with that, and we're going to run with that, and we're going to do one person at a time. And if it takes a couple, a week or a couple days, then so be it. It'll take whatever it takes, and then we'll move on to the next person on the list. But it is very serious. Make no mistake. These are the things that really make me think. But you're very right, Psychic Writer. It very well could be that they do want to silence these people because they know these people know too much. I won't go that far, Falls. I will not go that far, but I will say there's a lot of things that we don't know how it's run, how it's operated, how they're done. We don't have any idea how gravity really, how we can maybe manipulate the gravity, how we can manipulate propulsion, reverse engineer propulsion. I mean, if we was able to know how to reverse engineer, we were able to reverse propulsion, you'd be seeing cars flying everywhere. Why? Because that's what it's all about. It's learning how that all works. And when you have a lot of these people that have been in that type of realm, that now, coincidentally, many are going missing or unaliving or taking their own life, that's not normal. That is not normal. That's just not normal. So yes, there is a lot of these people are very important because they have so much knowledge. But what's the way to go ahead and not let that knowledge get out? Just take them out one by one. And then now anybody can't really go up there in front of Congress and say, yeah, they can speculate all they want. The people that know some about it can say it, but the people that know exactly how it all works, they won't be around. I'm just saying, it's just very interesting. Yeah, no shit, right? We need John Wick. It is scary stuff, everybody. It is. It really is. But that's only if you follow and you know what's going on. It's very scary. If you don't know what's going on, you wouldn't even bat an eye. You wouldn't think about it. It'd be like, oh, that's just, nonsense or crazy. But the reality is people are losing their life here recently in the last, God, what, year and a half, 2 years? And it's not just by accident. That I can tell you. I mean, I can tell you that because I honestly believe on the things that I have read already, it's not by accident. These are design situations that they need to squelch that noise. Yeah. Remember, the president has said this stuff's coming out. I haven't heard anything coming out. Nothing. Zero. But I have heard a lot of people who work in this realm who have gone silent, literally. Once again, it's just common sense, everybody. So with that, I'm going to let you all go so you guys can enjoy the rest of the lives with the other streamers. God bless you all. I thank you for all the new subscribers, for the people that came in. Tucson, appreciate you. 857, Mark the Shard, Sleuth, Monk, everybody who's out there. Appreciate you all for what you guys bring to the table. As far as myself, I love our chat. I love the people in our chat. Very, very all common sense people. And that's what matters to me. With that, it's all common sense, everybody. Manny says, enjoy your evening, DD and family. You got it. Okay, good night, everyone, DD and dogs. All you devil pups, have a great night. See you all tomorrow about 9. Remember, it's common sense. It's all common sense. Semper Fi.